Kevin Hart showed us recently in a Netflix movie that he had more than what it takes to pull off a dramatic role. Now we get to see him in True Story, playing a comedian but with a very dramatic overtone. Is this series one you should have on your binge list? During a tour stop in his hometown of Philadelphia, one of the world's most famous comedians is forced to answer the question of how far he'll go to protect what he has. So this stars Kevin Hart and Wesley Snipes playing brothers with a tumultuous relationship. We follow Kevin Hart as the kid over the course of a few days while he's in Philly to do some shows. And the story hinges on the domino effect of decisions that go from bad to worse to just downright terrible and how everybody reacts. Now this is a very dark series, but it's incredibly bingeable. It's 7 episodes with most episodes around 30 minutes each, save for that first episode, and that one's about an hour long. I didn't realize how emotional and almost tragic the story was going to turn out to be. Hart absolutely kills it in this role. He's able to channel some incredible darkness in order to make him stressed out and then burdened with the outcome of disturbing events. And throughout this, he vacillates between being very sympathetic and loathsome. And during the entire limited series, I was drawn to Hart. I didn't like him all the time, but I was fully engaged in his performance. And like I said, this also stars Wesley Snipes, playing the kid's brother, Carlton. Now, he's got a shady past, as well as a large amount of baggage that exists between Kid and Carlton. And they have a palpable tension between them that you can feel coming through the screen. While it takes a while for a lot of the details to come out, their dynamic is fascinating, and I was drawn to it, even if I was uncomfortable and not always happy. Right from the beginning, we see that there's tension surrounding the duo, and it conflicts nicely with the way they try to get along. Hart and Snipes have some amazing chemistry. It's not like buddy-buddy chemistry, but they bounce off of each other with great timing and their banter. Now, even though this centers around a stand-up comic, this limited series is really a tragedy mixed with a little bit of comedy, and that swings way more heavily towards the dramatic side. The story is kind of like if you give a mouse a cookie, except the cookie is moldy and fetid and soaked in whiskey, and not the good whiskey, just some $2 pint bottle that's going to scar your throat. That makes it sound like the story or the show is bad, but really that's the complete opposite. The story piles on complication upon complication, just stressing out the kid to see where the breaking point is. It's stressful, ulcer creating, and I loved every minute. This asks a lot of the audience and the fact that the show continues to build on the anguish and the stress. But what happens is that it becomes incredibly compelling. It's a little similar to Uncut Gems, where we watch this character and wonder at what point everything is just going to snap. Hart gives such a great performance because he's exasperated, tired, he's freaked out, horrified, he's devastated, relieved, pissed off, and then sometimes these are all shown in just a matter of seconds. He transitions between all of the emotions in a way that looks easy and flowing. It gives it a massive dose of realism because there are situations where I'm sure we have all experienced that we just run the gamut in an extremely short period of time. There's an underlying mystery of sorts that this whole story begins with. Now, I was able to guess it within about 35 minutes of the first episode, but I think if you figure it out also, this isn't going to ruin the story. We still go on this incredible character journey and get to witness how people react when put in impossible circumstances. This is probably the best part of the story. We're really examining the character of the kid. We see the good with the bad, but ultimately we get to learn what they're ultimately capable of. And the show does a good job of setting up situations that are especially awkward and uncomfortable. And that happens even within the first 5 minutes. There is a lot of foreshadowing that is given in very subtle ways. So when I was watching this for the second time, I found it incredibly fun to see how small things here and there pointed to what was about to come. I really did love this show, but it's so oppressive with the dramatic tension. It's invigorating and draining all at once. And there are some moments as the series goes along that begin to feel a little bit repetitive. And that's really only because we see some horrendous decisions being made after some other terrible decisions were made by the same character. Situations and settings change, keeping it fresh, but there's only so much we can take as the stress is piled on. The supporting cast in this is also great to take in. There's a high level of displeasure and frustration that they experience with the kid and his decisions. Sometimes the outcomes are heartbreaking, and certain characters nail their portrayal of utter disappointment. But we also get to see some incredible strength and resolve, which becomes even more heartbreaking when it happens. The conversations throughout the show may be a little over-dramatized, but given the point of view that the kid is watching from, the situations are extremely dramatic, so the conversations and the dialogue make sense in his eyes, and then they fit right in with the narrative. So overall, True Story is a harrowing tale of poor decisions and how consequences can spiral out of control. Kevin Hart shows that he can most certainly handle dark and dramatic roles with ease, creating a captivating character who is wildly flawed and downright nasty at times, but is still someone that we can connect with and want to see him make the change for the better. The pace of this limited series is patient, yet it's efficient enough to keep it driving at the right speed to continually increase suspense. And it's great to see Wesley Snipes back in a prominent role, and he shines as a shady antagonist to Hart's kid. And while there may be some portions that feel slightly repetitive, the story as a whole feels fresh. And now, as much as I liked what I watched, the tone and emotion of this prevents me from wanting to watch it again for a really long time. And that has absolutely nothing to do with the quality. There's sex, some nudity, a crap ton of profanity, and some very brutal and disturbing violence. I give True Story 4.5 out of 5 couches. So what's your favorite Kevin Hart or Wesley Snipes performance? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.